James Fanning on the second. And the first, and here we go with Paul George. Slithery move, and he puts and picked up inside by Paul George. George with a three. That's good. Paul, a minute to play as we go toward the final stretch of the third quarter. George, three. He's Kennard and George and Zubac. Puts on the brakes, puts up a three and knocks it in.
George, good shot. Wow, he is playing well.
It's his total in about a minute of play from his previous two games. George taking matters into his own hands, rises for three and rips the course. But every time he's on the floor, he's going to make the right decision. Here's George for an open three. Book it. 8 for Paul George, but 4 of the 5 starters are in double figures. George, one of them, has 15, give him 18.
Comes out loose, and the rebound by Kawhi. Paul George has it. He'll pump up a three, and the first bucket down for Paul George. 7. Paul George has it in his hands. Gobert jumps out on the perimeter. Hand is up. The shot is down. And just like
Ronnie Williams telling DeAndre Ayton, stay down, stay down. Batum backs up, looking for the three-point.
Hand up.
And just a tough bucket right there. You can't ask for better defense from Ayton. Got the tip in, but a bucket nonetheless. 15's the magic number, and Paul George.
Oh my.
George with a game high 36, rising up with a deep three over Ayton. Got it.
Back to George. Good closeout by Lee. Great defense by the Warriors, but wow. Paul George, step back baseline jump shot, got it, smooth.
From the floor, he has 7 points tonight. Shot clock down to 4. George trying to shake, Hart, and swishes home a three-pointer.
George. Fresno State private to set. Rashawn leading the Kings with 11. Paul George, the leading scorer, with 14. Make it 17. And we got to talk about.
George heaving a three. His Oklahoma City 2 for 21 from distance.
If you're wondering why the Clippers are not going to see Paul George knock down the.
They're very patient, David. A very low-paced team. They're going to get a good shot each time down the floor.
That's been their challenge this season, playing defense. But right now here early in the second, they've been pretty solid. Oh, I spoke too soon.
Paul George,
and Green getting a piece of that block. So this third quarter, both teams competing on the defensive end. Nothing easy.
Paul George.
Clippers 66, Cavaliers 59. George contested three. Oh boy. But has not missed a beat for this team.
Yeah, it's tough coming off the bench, being ready to play, but he's done a good job.
Colin Sexton as Morris hit the deck. Here goes George once again, uses a Zubac screen. He remains, gives it up to Morris, 2 hands off to George. George this time on Sexton, crossover, dribble, and a three. 7 of 8 from deep.
Roll. See how they guard it? The Nets are switching more.
Paul George, his three-pointer rattles in. LA now 5 of 6 from downtown. The health and safety protocols got back in. And hard to take out of the rotation. George fires away and knocks down the three-point.
Long arms and has hops in his legs and could really shoot the basketball.
I know another guy that can shoot the basketball pretty well.
What happens is Kawhi simply pivots, turns, and he's got space between the defender, and it's his favorite shot. Quickly.
They did this last night as well, trailing by as many as 17 to the Lakers. George, can he get the three back? He can.
By Kyle on that little shot.
Grizzlies lead it by 2. Paul George. Clippers have their starting 5 on the floor.
They've led by as many as 8. And now they...
And think about it. In the playoffs, when you take away option 1 and 2, second side of the floor, it finds Dante. He's got to be willing to be aggressive and get down.
George sizing up Tice. Paul George, the step back. Oh, that was nice. Over.
Injury to Pat Beverly. We just know it is a knee injury, his right knee, and will not return. George, 3, good. George, Morris, and Jackson on the floor. George with it now. Shot clock at 7. Hounded by Green. Leaning triple.
But throwing it to where he was going.
Drew Brees-like.
Right. Led him right to the rim.
It'll be Paul George. Paul George comes into the...
5 seconds left. 28 in the game. And a step back 3 by Paul George is the back. It was 14 before the last 5 scored by LA. George looking to go back-to-back on threes and done the right way down.
A little gravity for you.
Paul George for 3. Ooh.
But the difference in Monday night and tonight in this fourth quarter.
Into the break. George. Oh, knocks it in. 60. I thought this plexiglass was soundproof. My mistakes are. Here's George. Can he retaliate? He does. And once again, the clip.
Derek accidentally, a little friendly fire. Here's George for 3. And the Clippers right back at.
Actually 6 for 6 from the field. George for 3. I mean, I'll tell you this, Mr. Fratello. If George leads the way with a dozen for 3. Paul George leads the way with 15 on a perfect 5 for George. It's a screen from Patterson. Flings a 3, and it is all systems go here in this first quarter. And they really haven't been able to sustain any momentum despite the fact they're shooting 69, now make it 70% from the field. Paul George.
He holds his own.
It'll be interesting to see if he can get into a winning environment in Minnesota as Paul George steps away for the 3. It is splash. That's that old Ohio State education trying to get away with all that stuff. George for 3. Bucket. Paul George with 4.
9-second difference. Shot clock to game clock winding down in the third. George has to hurry. The jumper.
Gets it right back out to George again. Shoots it for 3. So Paul George with 17 points. He's also got 5 rebounds, and he's got another 3.
Got to give up something within a play, and you as a player have to recognize what you have.
Paul George connecting.
Goes Zubats. Commands a rebound. And George starting to find the
play. He's in his second year. He's already one of the top 5 players in this league. You know, if you ask me, did you see Paul George knock down?
Good. Lucas back at the table. Willie Cauley-Stein's getting ready to go in for the first time, and Paul George knocks down a 3. Out of the game right now. It's Brunson and the other 4 starters for Dallas. For 3, Paul George.
That's a problem if that starts dropping.
Control the glass with Paul George. George, the crossover into the 3.
After missing a couple, and he was huge in that third.
Paul George will back up on the dribble and shoot a 3. Got it.
Man, big 3.
From the corner, it doesn't go. Rebound kept alive by Rondo. George, 1 dribble and a J. Yes, sir!
And I mean,
and you see it in the other guys.
Yeah, I mean that as the highest compliment. There's an edge to that group.
Everybody walking around with a puffy chest.
George for 3. Got it! Paul George having himself a nut. George stops behind the 3-point line and knocks down another one. George 6 of 10 from
better defense. They have not defended well on this court thus far.
Paul George got him a 3.
3-point territory. They didn't get that, but the fact that they got a defensive stop and an attack in transition creates a good look, and Paul George continues.
George once again, Bogdanovich. Step back 3, splash for Paul George.
Done that quick turnaround after an emotional and tough series against Utah from Friday night to Sunday afternoon as Paul George drills that one. 4 on the 24. Paul George from long.
Phoenix is shooting 63% for the game. Paul George starting to feel it. Nails another three. That's his fourth three-pointer. Zubac sets the screen. George wide open, drills another three. 25 points. Paul George with an answer. Booker, who had 16 consecutive points for his team. George, step back, three-pointer. Oh, Paul George.
Just look at the havoc that Beverly put in fault. Rebounding, defending, knocking down shots.
Paul George knocks down.
And those were cash in the first 4 games.
George on the pull-up, nails a three. Paul George answers. Booker, one of the premier free throw shooters in the game, 93% in the series. George connects again. Paul George from downtown. Clippers up by 8, final minute, third quarter. George three-pointer, puts it in. Paul